company is looking through its portfolio of brands to consider strategic options that would benefit Ford the most. However, Mulally did not yet reveal whether the automaker is preparing to shut down its 71-year-old Mercury brand.
Every year, automakers spend millions of dollars designing, marketing, and hyping up their latest models. Some cars arrive with a wave of excitement, promising to revolutionize the market or carve out a new niche. But not every vehicle gets remembered. Some disappear almost as quickly as they debut, overshadowed by competitors, hurt by poor timing, or simply too bland to leave an impression. These are the cars that slipped through the cracks, vehicles that even car enthusiasts sometimes forget existed. They weren't necessarily the worst cars ever built, but they were forgettable, either because they failed to stand out or because they carried names that never had a chance. Today, we'll take a look at 9 cars that were instantly forgotten. From quirky retro experiments to rebadged sedans, these cars prove that not every new release earns a lasting place in automotive history. Number 9. Chevrolet SSR, 2003 to 2006. The early 2000s were a strange time for the automotive world. Retro styling was making a comeback, crossovers were starting to rise, and car makers were experimenting with bold designs to stand out. Into this mix came the Chevrolet SSR, short for Super Sport Roadster, an odd mashup of pickup, convertible, and retro hot rod. On paper, it sounded like a daring concept. In reality, it became one of the most instantly forgotten cars of its era. Chevrolet revealed the SSR in 2000 as a concept car, and the crowd loved it. Its curvy design paid tribute to Chevy's 1940s advanced design pickups, complete with flared fenders, a wide grille, and a nostalgic vibe. Unlike most concepts, Chevy decided to actually build it. By 2003, the SSR hit showrooms as a limited production halo vehicle. The big hook was its retractable hardtop roof, which folded neatly into the trunk, transforming the SSR from a truck-like cruiser into a convertible. It came with a small pickup bed covered by a hard tonneau, making it look practical, but in reality, the bed was too small to carry much more than groceries or a couple of golf bags. Under the hood, the SSR debuted with a 5.3-liter V8, producing 300 horsepower, paired with a 4-speed automatic. Later models offered the 6.0-liter LS 2 V8 from the Corvette, boosting output to 390 horsepower and even offering a 6-speed manual. Performance was decent, but the SSR's heavy weight, nearly 5,000 pounds, kept it from being as quick as it looked. The problems were clear. It was too expensive, too impractical, and too strange to fit into any clear category. Priced at over $40,000, it competed with true performance cars and luxury convertibles, but didn't really match them in speed, refinement, or usability. Truck buyers weren't interested either, since the bed was mostly for show. Sales were disappointing from the start. After the initial hype faded, dealerships struggled to move SSRS off the lot. By 2006, Chevy quietly ended production after selling fewer than 25,000 units in total. Today, the SSR has a small cult following among collectors who appreciate its weirdness, and it's sometimes seen at car shows as a curiosity. But in the grand scheme of things, most people barely remember it existed. The SSR wasn't a bad car, it was simply a confused one. By trying to be everything at once, it failed to be memorable in any lasting way. It's a textbook example of how even bold ideas can fade into obscurity when they don't connect with the market. Number 8. Suzuki Kizashi, 2010 to 2016. When Suzuki launched the Kizashi in 2010, it looked like the company was finally ready to be taken seriously in the mid-size sedan market. For years, Suzuki had been known in the US mostly for small cars like the SX4 and budget-friendly SUVs like the Grand Vitara. The Kizashi, whose name means "something great is coming" in Japanese, was supposed to mark a bold new chapter for the brand. Instead, it quickly became one of the most instantly forgotten cars of the decade. On paper, the Kizashi had plenty going for it. Its design was handsome, with sleek lines, a wide stance, and an upscale feel that suggested Suzuki was aiming to compete with the Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, and Nissan Altima. Inside, the cabin quality was surprisingly high, with soft touch materials, supportive seats, and a level of refinement not normally associated with Suzuki. For once, this wasn't just another bargain bin car. It felt like a serious contender. Performance was also respectable. The Kizashi came with a 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine, producing around 185 horsepower, paired with either a 6-speed manual or a continuously variable transmission, CVT. All-wheel drive was also available, which gave it an edge over some rivals in snowy climates. Road testers praised its solid handling and composed ride, calling it one of the best driving sedans in its class. So, what went wrong? Timing, brand perception, and lack of marketing. By 2010, Suzuki's reputation in the US was shaky at best. Buyers didn't see Suzuki as a premium player, no matter how good the Kizashi was. On top of that, the sedan market was already dominated by giants like Toyota and Honda, leaving little room for newcomers. Worse, Suzuki's US dealer network was thin, and advertising for the Kizashi was almost non-existent. Few people even knew it existed. Sales were predictably poor. In its best year, Suzuki sold fewer than 7,000 Kizashis in the US, a fraction of what competitors moved. By 2012, Suzuki announced it would withdraw entirely from the American car market, leaving the Kizashi without any chance at survival. Production continued in other markets until 2016, but the car faded quietly into obscurity. Today, the Kizashi is remembered mostly by enthusiasts who lament what could have been. Some even argue it was one of the most underrated sedans of its time, a car that deserved more recognition than it ever got. But for the general public, the Kizashi might as well have never existed. It came with a name that promised greatness, but it's mostly remembered as a sedan that was instantly forgotten. Number 7. Chrysler Aspen, 2007 to 2009. By the mid-2000s, Chrysler was struggling to keep pace in the crowded SUV market. Competitors like Ford, Chevrolet, and Toyota had strong lineups of full-size SUVs that appealed to families and luxury buyers alike. Chrysler decided it needed its own entry in the segment, and in 2007, it launched the Aspen. The company hoped the Aspen would become a premium alternative to its Dodge Durango sibling. Instead, it became one of the most instantly forgotten SUVs of its time. The Chrysler Aspen was essentially a rebadged Dodge Durango with a few luxury touches. Chrysler dressed it up with a signature chrome grille, extra trim, and more upscale interior appointments. Buyers could choose between a 4.7-liter V8 or the more powerful 5.7-liter Hemi V8, both paired with either rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. On paper, the Aspen seemed to offer everything families wanted: seating for up to 8, strong towing capacity, and the prestige of wearing the Chrysler badge. The problem was that it entered a market that was already saturated. By 2007, gas prices were climbing rapidly, and demand for large, thirsty SUVs was shrinking. Buyers who still wanted a full-size SUV were already loyal to better established models like the Chevy Tahoe, Ford Expedition, or Toyota Sequoia. The Aspen didn't offer anything unique to pull customers away from those rivals. Worse, its similarities to the Dodge Durango made it feel redundant. Many questioned why Chrysler needed two nearly identical SUVs in the same corporate family. While the Aspen was marketed as the luxury version, its interior quality and features didn't justify a premium price tag. It felt like Chrysler had simply added some chrome and hoped buyers wouldn't notice the lack of distinction. Sales were weak right out of the gate, and the timing couldn't have been worse. In 2008, the global financial crisis hit, sending fuel prices higher and SUV sales crashing. Chrysler itself was sliding into bankruptcy, and the Aspen was among the first vehicles to be cut. By 2009, Chrysler discontinued the model after just 2 years on the market. Today, the Aspen is barely remembered. It never developed a fan base, it never stood out, and it never lived long enough to leave much of a legacy. For most people, it's just a footnote in Chrysler's history, a forgotten attempt to break into a segment it was never equipped to compete in. The Chrysler Aspen proves that timing, brand identity, and originality matter. Without those, even a big SUV with a HEMI under the hood can vanish into obscurity almost instantly. Number 6. Mitsubishi Raider, 2005 to 2009. By the mid-2000s, Mitsubishi was struggling in the U.S. market. Once popular with sporty models like the Eclipse and Galant, the brand had begun to lose ground. Looking for a way to expand its lineup, Mitsubishi entered the pickup truck market with the Raider in 2005. The idea was to offer buyers a rugged, capable truck under the Mitsubishi badge. Unfortunately, the Raider turned out to be one of the most instantly forgotten pickups of its time. The Raider wasn't truly a Mitsubishi at all. It was essentially a rebadged Dodge Dakota, built through a partnership between Mitsubishi and Chrysler. From the outside, the Raider had slightly different styling, including a Mitsubishi grille and badging, but underneath it was nearly identical to the Dakota. Engine options included a 3.7-liter V6 and a 4.7-liter V8, both paired with rear-wheel or four-wheel drive. The truck offered respectable towing capacity and payload ratings, but it did nothing that the Dakota hadn't already done. The problem was simple. Nobody asked for it. The Dakota already filled the niche for a mid-sized truck within Chrysler's lineup, and Mitsubishi didn't have the brand strength in the U.S. to lure buyers away from established names like Toyota Tacoma, Nissan Frontier, or Ford Ranger. To make matters worse, Mitsubishi's U.S. dealer network was small, meaning fewer places for potential buyers to even see the Raider in person. Sales reflected the lack of interest. In its first year, Mitsubishi sold fewer than 10,000 units, dismal compared to the Tacoma's six-figure sales. By 2009, as the financial crisis hammered truck sales and Mitsubishi pulled back from the American market, the Raider quietly disappeared. Most people barely noticed it was gone. What makes the Raider so forgettable is that it wasn't bad. It was just irrelevant. It offered nothing new, nothing exciting, and no real reason for buyers to choose it over competitors. Even among truck enthusiasts, The Raider is rarely mentioned today, overshadowed by more successful and long-lived models. In the end, the Raider stands as a prime example of badge engineering gone wrong. Mitsubishi hoped a borrowed truck would expand its lineup and boost sales, but instead, it highlighted just how far the company had fallen in the U.S. market. It came and went so quickly that even many Mitsubishi fans forget it ever existed. Number 5. Pontiac G6, 2005 to 2010. When the Pontiac G6 debuted in 2005, General Motors had high hopes. It was marketed as the car that would revitalize Pontiac, replacing the aging Grand Am and introducing a fresh, modern look for the brand. Pontiac even made a splashy move by giving away G6s to every member of Oprah Winfrey's studio audience. A publicity stunt that put the car in front of millions of viewers. For a brief moment, the G6 had hype, but almost as quickly as it arrived, it faded into obscurity. On the surface, the G6 wasn't a bad car. It was built on GM's Epsilon platform, which also underpinned vehicles like the Chevrolet Malibu and Saab 9-3. It offered multiple body styles, including a sedan, coupe, and even a retractable hardtop convertible. Under the hood, engines ranged from a modest 2.4-liter four-cylinder to more powerful V6 options, including a 3.9-liter V6 in sportier trims. With available features like remote start, adjustable pedals, and a decent sound system, the G6 was competitive on paper. But that was the problem. It was only competitive on paper. In practice, the G6 was utterly forgettable. Its design was bland, its interior felt cheap, and its driving dynamics never stood out in a crowded mid-size segment. Rivals like the Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, and Nissan Altima offered better reliability and refinement, while stylish newcomers like the Hyundai Sonata undercut it on value. Pontiac tried to inject excitement with the GTP and GXP trims, which offered sportier performance, but even those couldn't shake the car's rental fleet reputation. It quickly became a common sight at rental agencies, further damaging its image as a serious contender. Then came Pontiac's larger problem: GM's financial collapse. By 2009, Pontiac was one of the brands eliminated as part of GM's restructuring. The G6 limped along until 2010, after which it was discontinued entirely. With the brand gone, so too went any hope of the G6 developing a legacy. Today, the G6 is largely forgotten. You might see one still running as a cheap used car, but it inspires little nostalgia. Unlike classics from Pontiac's past, the GTO, Firebird, or Trans Am, the G6 represents the brand's decline rather than its glory days. The Pontiac G6 had all the ingredients to be a hit, but its lack of personality, weak execution, and bad timing doomed it. Even with an Oprah-sized publicity launch, it couldn't stick in people's minds. It's a perfect example of how a car can make headlines one day and be forgotten almost instantly the next. Number 4. Mercury Milan, 2006 to 2011. The Mercury Milan was supposed to be Mercury's modern answer to the mid-size sedan market, giving the brand something fresh in a segment dominated by heavy hitters like the Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, and Nissan Altima. Launched in 2006, the Milan was positioned as a slightly more upscale version of the Ford Fusion and Mazda 6, with a focus on comfort, value, and refinement. But instead of making a splash, it barely made a ripple, and today, it's one of the most instantly forgotten sedans of its time. From the outside, the Milan had a clean, conservative design. It featured Mercury's trademark waterfall grille, a smooth body shape, and understated styling that was safe but unremarkable. Inside, it aimed to feel more premium than the Fusion, with upgraded materials, additional features, and optional leather upholstery. Buyers could choose from a 4-cylinder or V6 engine, and all-wheel drive was even available on higher trims. On paper, it checked all the right boxes for a family sedan. The problem was that nothing about the Milan stood out. It wasn't sportier than its rivals, it wasn't more luxurious, and it wasn't more affordable. It was essentially a Ford Fusion in nicer clothes, and most buyers saw through the badge engineering. Those who wanted a Fusion simply bought a Fusion. Those who wanted something upscale went for brands like Acura, Lexus, or Buick. The Milan existed in a gray zone that few people cared about. Sales were modest at best, and Mercury's fading brand identity didn't help. By the late 2000s, Mercury had lost much of its relevance, existing mainly as a badge-engineered alternative to Ford models. The Milan, despite being one of Mercury's better products, couldn't change that perception. In 2010, Ford announced it would shutter the Mercury brand entirely, citing weak sales and the need to focus on Ford and Lincoln. The Milan quietly disappeared in 2011 alongside the rest of Mercury's lineup. Unlike iconic Mercury models of the past, such as the Cougar or Grand Marquis, the Milan left behind no fan base, no legacy, and very little recognition. Today, the Mercury Milan is rarely remembered even by car enthusiasts. It wasn't a bad car, reliability was decent, and it offered good value, but it was so bland and derivative that it faded from memory almost immediately. It's the kind of car you might see in a used car lot and think, "Oh yeah, I forgot these even existed." The Mercury Milan is a classic example of how playing it too safe can doom a car to instant obscurity. Without a strong identity or clear reason to exist, it became just another mid-size sedan in a sea of better-known competitors, forgotten almost as soon as it was released. Number 3. Honda Crosstour, 2010 to 2015. Honda has long been praised for building practical, reliable cars that people love to keep for decades. But even Honda has produced its share of missteps, and the Crosstour is one of the best examples. Introduced in 2010, the Crosstour was designed to blend the comfort of a sedan with the versatility of an SUV. What buyers got instead was a confusing mashup that few wanted, making it one of the most instantly forgotten vehicles Honda ever sold. At its core, the Crosstour was essentially a Honda Accord wagon, but with a sloping, fastback roofline that gave it coupe-like styling. Honda hoped this design would appeal to drivers who wanted SUV utility without giving up sleek looks. It offered a roomy interior, all-wheel drive availability, and Honda's trademark reliability. Engine options included a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder and a more powerful 3.5-liter V6, with respectable performance and fuel economy for its size. But the design turned out to be its biggest weakness. The Crosstour's long, sloping roofline cut into rear cargo space, making it less practical than a traditional wagon or SUV. At the same time, its tall stance and awkward proportions gave it a bloated, bulky look that critics and buyers alike found unattractive. It didn't have the elegance of a coupe, the spaciousness of an SUV, or the utility of a wagon. It sat uncomfortably in between. To make matters worse, the Crosstour was expensive compared to the Accord it was based on. Buyers looking for value chose the Accord sedan, while those wanting utility gravitated toward Honda's hugely popular CR-V or Pilot. The Crosstour failed to carve out a clear niche, and its sales reflected that. In its first year, sales barely reached 28,000 units, well below Honda's expectations. Numbers declined each year after. Honda attempted a refresh in 2013, adding more standard features and tweaking the styling, but it wasn't enough to change the car's image. By 2015, the Crosstour was quietly discontinued, leaving little impact on the market. Today, the Honda Crosstour is rarely remembered. Even loyal Honda fans often forget it existed, overshadowed by the success of the Accord, Civic, CR-V, and Pilot. On the used market, it's one of those cars you stumble across and think, wait, Honda made this? The Crosstour's failure highlights the danger of trying to be too many things at once. By blending sedan, wagon, and SUV traits without excelling at any of them, it ended up being a car nobody truly wanted. For a company as successful as Honda, the Crosstour is a rare flop, and one that disappeared from memory almost as quickly as it appeared. Number 2. Dodge Dart, 2013 to 2016. When Dodge revived the Dart name in 2013, it was meant to be a big comeback. The original Dart from the 1960s and 70s had been a popular compact car, and bringing back the badge was supposed to tap into nostalgia while giving Dodge a much-needed entry in the competitive compact sedan market. With Chrysler now under Fiat's control, the Dart was built on a Fiat-derived platform and promised to blend Italian engineering with American muscle styling. Instead, it quickly became one of the most instantly forgotten cars of the decade. The Dart arrived with bold expectations. Dodge marketed it heavily as a stylish, fun-to-drive compact that would appeal to younger buyers. It featured aggressive front-end styling, available 18-inch wheels, and even performance-inspired trims. Inside, the Dart had an attractive dashboard, with optional large touchscreen infotainment and customizable interior accents, features that stood out in the compact class at the time. Under the hood, Dodge offered multiple engine options, including a 2.0-liter four-cylinder, a turbocharged 1.4-liter borrowed from Fiat, and a 2.4-liter Tiger Shark four-cylinder. On paper, this gave buyers plenty of choice, but in practice, none of the engines stood out. The base engines were underpowered. The turbo was plagued with lag and reliability complaints, and the transmissions, especially the dual-clutch automatic, were frustratingly clunky. The Dart's biggest problem, though, was competition. By 2013, the compact car market was stacked with strong offerings like the Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, Ford Focus, and Hyundai Elantra. Compared to those, the Dart felt heavy, less fuel-efficient, and not as refined. Reliability concerns didn't help Dodge's case either. Despite an aggressive marketing push, sales never came close to expectations. In its best year, the Dart sold just over 83,000 units, far behind the segment leaders. By 2016, Fiat Chrysler decided to cut its losses, discontinuing both the Dart and the Chrysler 200 as part of a broader strategy to shift focus toward SUVs and trucks. Today, the 2013 to 2016 Dart is largely forgotten. It lacks the nostalgia of the classic Dart, and it left no lasting impression on the compact car segment. For most people, it's just another failed experiment during Dodge's rocky years under Fiat. The Dart story is a reminder that a strong nameplate alone can't guarantee success. Without standout performance, reliability, or value, even a heavily marketed car can vanish from memory almost overnight. The modern Dart came in with hype, but exited quietly, joining the long list of cars that were instantly forgotten. Number 1. Saturn Aura, 2006 to 2010. The Saturn Aura was supposed to be the car that saved Saturn. Launched in 2006, it was marketed as a stylish, modern mid-size sedan that would finally give the struggling GM brand a real competitor to segment leaders like the Toyota Camry and Honda Accord. For a brief moment, it looked like Saturn might actually have a hit on its hands. But within a few years, the Aura was gone. And today, it's one of the most instantly forgotten cars of its era. On paper, the Aura was exactly what Saturn needed. Built on GM's Epsilon platform, it shared bones with the Opel Vectra in Europe and the Chevy Malibu in the US. Styling was clean and attractive, with a sleek profile, sharp headlights, and a modern interior that felt like a major step up from Saturn's earlier offerings. Reviewers praised its design, noting that it was finally a Saturn that didn't look like an economy car. Under the hood, buyers could choose from a 3.5-liter or 3.6-liter V6, as well as a hybrid version called the Aura Green Line. With smooth handling, solid ride comfort, and available features like OnStar, leather seating, and a decent audio system, the Aura felt competitive. In fact, it was so well received that it won the 2007 North American Car of the Year award, a huge accolade for a brand that had long been treated as GM's forgotten child. But the Aura's success was short-lived. Saturn's reputation for cheap, bland cars was hard to shake, and convincing buyers to suddenly view it as a credible alternative to Toyota or Honda proved nearly impossible. Dealerships lacked strong presence, and GM's overlapping brands caused confusion. Worse, the Aura was caught in the middle of GM's financial collapse. As the 2008 recession deepened, GM decided to shut down Saturn entirely in 2010, killing the Aura along with it. The Aura never had the chance to build a legacy. Despite its early awards and promising reviews, sales never reached the levels needed to sustain the model. Once Saturn was gone, the Aura disappeared almost overnight, with little fanfare. Today, it's remembered, if at all, as a footnote in Saturn's final chapter. A car that could have helped turn things around, but never got the chance. The Saturn Aura's story highlights how even a decent car can be instantly forgotten if the brand behind it fails. It wasn't a bad vehicle. In fact, it was one of GM's better sedans of the 2000s. But with Saturn gone, so too was its place in history. The Aura proves that sometimes being good just isn't enough to be remembered. From the Chevrolet SSR to the Saturn Aura, these cars all had one thing in common. They were forgotten almost as soon as they arrived. Some suffered from bad timing, others from bland execution, and some from being tied to brands that were already fading. In the fast-moving auto industry, if a car doesn't stand out, it risks vanishing into obscurity. But now, we've brought them back into the spotlight, at least for a moment. Which of these forgotten cars do you actually remember seeing on the road? And do you think any of them deserved a second chance?